Joining us now, CNN political commentator and the host of CNN's Smerconish, Michael Smerconish. Michael, I love hanging out with you on Fridays. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for saying that, Kasie. I'm thrilled to be here as well.
So you're a native son of Pennsylvania. I grew up mostly in the Philadelphia suburbs. What do you make of the tie there and the difference between the Pennsylvania numbers and the ones in Michigan? What about Michigan makes it different?
I was surprised by the disparity as well, because I tend to see them in similar terms, similar composition of the electorate. Let me say one thing as a preamble, and not to be a Debbie Downer, but let's remember this. In 1980, I think the number was 14 that Jimmy Carter was leading Ronald Reagan by, and ultimately ended up losing by 10. So there's a lot of time on the clock. Having said that, like you, I'm a political junkie, so I love this stuff. I think it's women and independence. I mean, my cursory analysis of the data thus far suggests that President Biden is trailing among women and independents in Michigan, and that that's not taking place in Pennsylvania. Why that's the case, I'm not sure, but that's a trouble sign for him. What's a better sign, I think, for President Biden is that thus far, as between both states, they look at it more as a referendum on Trump than they look at it as a referendum on Biden. And by my analysis, that's exactly how Joe Biden was able to win in 2020, right, because people were going in there and throwing a lever as to how they felt about Donald Trump, not so much that they were voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah, and our Sarah Longwell, who's here on our panel, has been saying that, you know, that is the coalition, right? It is an anti-Trump coalition at the end of the day. If it's a referendum on Trump, the Biden team definitely feels like they're in a much better position. Michael, let's talk about Donald Trump, because he has just 3 days to post $500 million in bond here. And we're seeing these new filings, whether they're not new, they came in early March. We just learned that she filed these judgments up in Westchester County for some properties up there. Trump's trying to scramble how to do this. The Biden campaign's calling him broke Don. What do you see in all of this politically?
I see a conflict between that which is best for Donald Trump personally and that which is best for Donald Trump politically. For example, it's probably in his personal best interest to declare bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, something that he's not done in the past, but he has done with business entities relative to Atlantic City. But he doesn't want to do that because he thinks that takes away from the brand. And then similarly, it would be in his personal best interest to continue to fight the seizure of his real estate. But Kasie, I'm not so sure that's bad for his political interest, because my takeaway is that these 4 indictments, strange as it sounds, have benefited him, at least with Republicans. The optics of his real estate being seized by Letitia James, I think, might really motivate the base and cause some who are not in his camp to take a look at it and say, wait a minute, maybe it's gone a bit too far.
You don't think that the bigger risk is to this idea that, you know, he's this great? I mean, because honestly, it's exposed the fact that he doesn't have $500 million lying around when he constantly is out in public, or used to be out in public, saying, you know, I've got billions and billions of dollars in cash.
Okay, and as if this election cycle were not nutty enough, now comes the possibility that next week, at least on paper, his net worth doubles. I thought that Truth Social was bombing. I had no idea that there was an IPO coming and the potential for the parent organization of his social media platform to put as much as $3.5 billion, at least on paper, in his pocket. He couldn't sell it for 6 months, but that's like a new wrinkle to all of this that, frankly, I hadn't seen coming.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, there's some rules around that, right? In theory, he's not supposed to sell it or borrow against it for 6 months, but the people that control it are Trump supporters.
I keep saying to people that we have no idea what's about to unfold in this campaign, that individuals whose names we don't even know right now, and events that we could never forecast, are about to unfold in a way that couldn't be imagined. I mean, it's just that kind of a cycle, unlike anything I've seen in the past. And this is the latest example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So speaking of things that are unique to this election cycle, Michael, obviously one of the issues Democrats really want to focus on is reproductive rights, abortion in the wake of Dobbs. There was a letter that I want to ask you about. Matt Rosendale, conservative congressman, wrote to the Veterans Affairs Administration. The VA announced they're going to extend coverage, health coverage for IVF services to single people and to same-sex couples. It already exists for there is some coverage already in there for traditional, I guess, what these congresspeople would call traditional families. They wrote and they said that, look, IVF is morally dubious and should not be subsidized by the American taxpayer. They talk about the surplus of embryos that's generated And then they talk about how the government shouldn't be involved in tweaking. They should not try to remake the nuclear family. Isn't this exactly the thing that like all Republicans who are trying to win elections are saying they shouldn't say? IVF is morally dubious.
I think they're playing with fire on this issue. I mean, the recent episode in Alabama and the outpouring, even in Alabama, for those who wanted to make sure that they protected reproductive rights, and particularly for couples that were struggling to have children, I think showed that IVF is a little different than just the conventional choice or abortion argument. To tie this all together, to go back to the polling data that you asked me about initially in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I was interested to see that ahead of reproductive rights, ahead of even the border, which surprised me, it's the economy that noses out those other issues as to what's top of mind. In the end, both sides have something that's going to motivate their base. On one side, it's the border and it's crime. And on the other side, it's reproductive rights and maybe the economy. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right, Michael Smerconish. We didn't even get to talk about Bob Menendez, who's now not running as a Democrat.
What makes him think that independence would warm to his legal peril? I mean, what a nutty thought. That's my belief. Okay.
Gold bars, Michael. Gold bars. Thank you very much.
Closet. I wish I had some.
Thank you for your time, Michael. Make sure everyone should watch your show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on CNN. Thank you.